Hello everyone, welcome to today's lesson. We are starting a brand new chapter on 3D objects. And so before we can start finding volume and surface area of 3D objects, we want to make sure you have the basics. So today's lesson is kind of all about the basics of 3D objects. Okay, so first basic that we're going to talk about is just knowing what the names are of the 3D objects. Okay, so that's objective one. Second objective is we're going to learn what a face, a vertex, and an edge is. And then our third objective is we're going to talk about cross sections of shapes. All right, so let's start with the first objective and naming our 3D objects. All right, this one was a standard from 7th grade. It is a cylinder. All right, what makes a cylinder a cylinder? Every cylinder that you know should have a top and a bottom that are circles. And those circles must be parallel. In other words, they will never touch even if you extended them. And they are also congruent, meaning they are the same size. And we name a cylinder based upon those circles. They have to have those two circles. And so we call that the base. The circles are the base. Shapes are always named after their bases. Okay, so the next shape, we took away one of those circles. So instead, the shape only has one circle, unlike the cylinder that has two. The shape has one circle, and the other side comes to a point. We call that shape a cone. So again, it has one base, that's a circle, always has to be a circle, and then the other side comes to a point. In 8th grade, we will start finding volumes of cones. We will also do the next shape. We will find volume and surface area of the shape. That shape is called a sphere. And that one's probably the most difficult to explain, but it is a surface made up of all the points that are the same distance from a given point. That given point is always the center of the sphere. Okay, so those are 3 of the shapes. We're going to talk about 2 other types of shapes. All right, now these shapes look totally different, but they have something in common. They both have 2 bases. So this bottom one has 2 5-sided shapes. Those 5-sided shapes are called pentagons. The other one, the one on top, has 2 rectangles. It has more than 2, but it has 2 congruent shapes. So we call those prisms. It has 2 parallel, so they won't ever cross. Congruent, meaning same size, bases. Now notice it says non-circular because if it was a circle, that would turn it into a cylinder. And we have different types of prisms. Okay, so these are both prisms, but prisms are more specifically named after their base. So the top one is a rectangular prism. And the bottom one, we said the base was a pentagon, so we say that this is a pentagonal prism. All right, let's say I take away one of those bases and they don't have 2, now they only have 1 base, and the other side is a point. So we have a triangle base, we have a square or rectangle base, 1, 2, 3, 4. We have a pentagon base. All right, we say that these are not prisms, but pyramids because they all come to a point at the top. So all pyramids have 1 base that is non-circular. Again, we say non-circular because if it was a circle base that came to a point, that shape would be a cone. All right, at this time, I would love for you guys to pause, and in the notes section, one of the notes is just naming a bunch of shapes and practicing with that, and then you can check your answers there. So feel free to pause the video here and then go do that practice. And after you do that practice, come back and we will talk about the last 2 objectives. Okay, so we covered right now the first one, which was identifying 3D objects. Now we're going to talk about 2 and 3, some properties with the 3D objects. All right, so vocabulary here. Face. base is a flat surface. So if we're talking about, let's say we have a square pyramid here. Right, bases are the flat surfaces. So one flat surface is that square on the bottom. We also have the different triangles. So we've got one triangle here in front, we've got one inside, and then don't forget the one triangle in the back. So this one would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 surfaces. All right, next vocabulary word are edges. Edges are straight lines. So where the two faces meet, they usually create a straight line. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 on the bottom, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 on the top. This one would have 8 edges. All right, next vocabulary word is vertex. The plural is vertices. So you might hear your teacher say vertices. It means the same as vertex, just more than one. And a vertex or vertices are where 3 or more edges meet. They usually create a point. Now, I'll talk about one instance where it's not a vertex, that's a point. But the edges, where the straight lines meet. So here there are 4 on the bottom, and then there is 1 at the top. So there would be 5 vertices on this shape. And the one that I was kind of talking to that's a little different is, let me go to that one. It's the cone. Because on the cone, we only have one face. It's that flat surface, that circle. And for something to be an edge, it's where 2 faces meet. Well, there's not even 2 faces. So this circle line here is not an edge because it has to be a straight line where the 2 faces meet. So this does not have any edges, and if it doesn't have any edges, it does not have any points. This point is actually, or sorry, it doesn't have any vertices. This point is actually called the apex. It does have a special name, but it is not a vertex. All right, last one, cross sections. Cross sections is if I cut a shape in half, what would the shape look like? That flat shape. So it's like you're playing Fruit Ninja. So for example, if I would cut this square pyramid in half, and I would cut it in half this way and break it apart, that cut is always the same shape as the base. So if I break it apart, on that case, our shape should be a square since our base was a square. All right, now if I cut it in half or did a cross section up and down and broke it apart, the top part comes to a point, the bottom part does not. Any shape that comes to a point would end up being a triangle. Again, that's kind of hard to visualize, so you may have to ask your teacher or get some visuals online. All right, last one here. So we're gonna do some stations tomorrow or Monday, and this is what it's going to look like. So the first thing that you're going to have to do is name the shape. Well, here we have a rectangular prism. All right, number of faces, those are flat surfaces. So I have 1 in the front, don't forget about the 1 in the back, so 2. We've got the 2 sides, so 3 and 4. Don't forget the top and bottom, 5 and 6. We have 6 faces. All right, edges. It's a little bit harder for a lot of people to see. Edges, remember, the straight lines. So I have 4 running straight up and down. There's 1 in the back there. I have 4 on the top. I have 4 on the bottom of the box. So 4 plus 4 plus 4, I have 8 edges. Vertices, those are points. I've got 4 points on the bottom. I've got 4 points on the top. That gives us 8 vertices. All right, last one, the hardest part for a lot of people. If I slice this shape in half parallel to the base, so means running the same direction as the base, I should get the same shape as the base. So in this case, I'm going to get a rectangle if I would break that prism in half. All right, this time I'm going to cut perpendicular to the base. So this time I'm going to cut it up and down, so opposite direction the base is running. If I broke that shape apart and looked at the inside piece, that also would be a rectangle. Now in class on Monday, we're going to be doing this with Play-Doh. So we're going to be building some of these shapes and then cutting them in half and seeing what it looks like. So hopefully that will help with any questions that you have with cross sections. All right, that's it for the lesson today. Hope to see everyone soon. Bye.